Marketer of the Day, episode 696. Followers, doers, and experts. Delegate to build the right team of outsourced employees with FreeUp co-founder Nathan Hirsch. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with return guest Nathan Hirsch from freeup.com. That is free with 3 E, so that is FREEUP. And Nathan is an entrepreneur and he's an expert in remote hiring and e-commerce. He is the co-founder and the CEO of freeup.com, which is a marketplace that connects businesses with pre-vetted freelancers in e-commerce, in digital marketing, and much more. And Nathan has sold over $30 million online, and he regularly appears on leading business podcasts. And we're going to talk today about when is the right time to start hiring for your business, the do's and don'ts, the ins and outs, the mistakes that hopefully Nathan can tell you about that you can just skate right over. Nathan, it's been almost just about 3 years. So how have you been?
It's crazy. Life is good. I feel like the last time I talked to you, we were just getting FreeUp off the ground, and we're super appreciative that people like you have kind of supported us along the way. And it's been a lot of fun growing. I think back when I was doing it, we were mostly for Amazon sellers, and now we've expanded to e-commerce and marketing. And everything's been good.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad to hear it. And if anyone wants to hear that old interview with us, that is Marketer of the Day /183. And I checked back and listened to a little bit a few minutes ago, and it sounded like two nervous guys talking. We were both just really we were both in like motor mouth mode. And it's crazy to sometimes listen back to some of your old things or revisit old websites, old web pages, and cringe a little bit and say, I can't believe how much I have grown and evolved. And what I've noticed from doing this podcasting thing and having people like you on is that I've been surprised at how many just big time marketers are willing to spend the time to slim it with me. And then I realized at some point that it's because they are spending most of their time being the figurehead, being the boss, and having that team do the work. And then the other thing is that about half of the guests, when I ask them about their number one secret or talk about their big breakthroughs, it's always about this hiring thing. It's always about getting yourself out of the business and all that cliche stuff and just having other people do the work for them. So did you have any kind of a similar moment? Did you go through any sort of process where you were overworked or just doing so much and you had to get more organized, so to speak?
Yeah, I remember back with my first Amazon business, I was making money for the first time. I was doing everything myself. I was working a lot of hours every week. I was balancing social life and school and a girlfriend and all that stuff. And I remember meeting with an accountant because my parents told me I should probably pay taxes. And he said, when are you going to hire your first person? And I shrugged him off. Like, why would I do that? That's money out of my pocket. They're going to steal my ideas. They're going to hurt my business. And he just laughed in my face and said, you're going to learn that lesson on your own. Well, sure enough, my first busy season comes around the fourth quarter and I'm not prepared. I'm doing everything myself and I just get destroyed. I'm working 20 plus hours a day. My social life's gone. I ruined the relationship with my girlfriend. Like, I'm just focused on work, trying to stay alive. And when I get to January, I think to myself, man, I could never let that happen again. And ever since then, I've been very committed to hiring because I've realized that if you don't, you just hit a ceiling that you can't get past. And there's also just people out there that not only are better than you at certain things, but are also enjoy them more than you do. I remember the first day that I woke up and I didn't have to answer customer service emails for my Amazon business, and someone else was loving it. They could do customer service 12 hours a day, and that's not what I wanted to do. So I got into that mentality early, really based on that brutal 8 weeks of just doing everything myself. And at the time, I had no time to hire anyone because I was just stuck in the busy season.
Super cool. And there's a couple of interesting things in the answer there. And one is that you worked yourself to almost to death, right? And there are so many people out there who they're afraid to really go for it. They're afraid to put in the hours or build what they need to build. So they're like even many, many steps back from even hitting that breaking point. So I think that some of us need to realize that there's sometimes more work required to get the result we want. So there's that part of it. And then there's then there's the time limitation factor where even if we found the motivation, found the time, went through all those process of contacting those leads or building that list or building those sites or marketing those e-commerce products or whatever. So there is like that that ceiling that you mentioned. And the other thing that's, I think, really important there that's been getting on my radar more recently is that some people love some of these things that we don't love to do, right? And sometimes you hear about like, well, if you're a creative person, then you should partner or work with someone who is more about the diligent, the business. But then even specific tasks, like you said, like customer service, some people actually wake up in the morning and love to do it. So why put yourself through all that hassle, right? Why do the things you don't want to do when there's someone who is a better fit for it? And then there's also that ego aspect of like, there's just some people out there who are better than us, right? That can do some of these tasks better. And we need to maybe let go of some of that ego trip somewhat.
And I also think there's an element that not enough entrepreneurs talk about is that the trial and error portion of being an entrepreneur. When you're starting a new business, you don't know what social media channel is going to be the best for you. You don't know what certain marketing system or social media system or lead generation system is going to be good for your business. You have to try lots of different things. And what I call low risk, high reward situations. You put a little bit of money into different things and certain things work pretty well and you double down and you put more time, more energy, more people into them. And other things don't work out and maybe you scrap it or try it again later with a slightly different approach. And the remote gig economy kind of allows you to do that. You can hire some people for different price points to try different things with no commitment and see what works and try to implement a few expert strategies or hire a consultant and have them come in and try to change something. So there's a lot of people out there that teach like this is the one way to grow your business, which isn't the truth. I mean, a lot of times you can take a lot from them and apply it to your business, but you're going to have to tweak it to how you want it done and try a lot of other different things along the way. So that's one of my favorite parts of hiring. I'm constantly just thinking of new ideas on weekends or nights or whatever, and then just trying to implement them with different affordable people to see what works and what kind of momentum I can gain.
And I've seen you do a little bit of that. I've seen you like, I think one, and it seems to be like, maybe I noticed it on the weekends when you're kind of in creative idea mode. Like at one point you came up with like a menu where you can just say like, I want a number 3 for my freelancers. And I've seen you do a little bit of if a really popular internet marketing course or some other course was out, like a product launch course or something, you'd say, I have people trained specifically to implement this course that you bought. So if you're a buyer of this and you're one of the people that have this, then you already bought it and you already have drunk the Kool-Aid about it, but maybe you don't have the skill or the time, the patience to do it. I can just plug my people in. So I've seen you do some of this creative stuff, and it really plays to the entrepreneurial ADD, right? Because there's that kind of thing where if we let things get too big in scope or if we let things take too long to get to that minimum viable product, then there's that problem of just having all these unfinished things. So I like that mentality you have there of you're just creating little experiments, doing the trial and error, as you put it, so we can try things quickly before we run out of patience or time, and then see what works. And then that gives us the freedom to kind of try new things. So do you have any fun stories along those lines of maybe some of these fun, wacky projects that you thought of and you just got to that trial and error to see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, Connor and I were always brainstorming. We try to do it a few times every month. He's in Colorado, I'm in Orlando, and I'll walk around the lake with my dogs. I don't know what he does, but we just talk for an hour and we just throw ideas back and forth. And we end up writing a bunch of stuff down. And it's a weekend, so we're not taking ourselves too seriously. And usually we come in on Monday and some of the ideas are stupid and we scrap them off. And then the other ones are like, all right, well, these would take too long to implement. Let's put them off later. And then we've got some to implement. So I think the menu is probably one of the better ones, because that was an idea we randomly had when we were talking. I don't remember if it was my idea or his idea or whatever. But we were like, all right, like how hard is this to implement? I'm going to Viber one of my assistants to go and grab the top 50 requests that we get and send me a list so I can go through it and edit it and make sure there's not any like customer information or anything like too specific in there. And then I'm going to email that over to a graphic designer and say, hey, this is what I want. Add it to our WordPress site. And within a week, it was done. I didn't really spend much time on it besides just proofreading it. And ever since then, clients have really loved that idea. And whenever you do something, you never really know what the clients will or won't like. We could have put that out there and no one had used it. And I spent $100 getting it done of other people's time, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But I feel like if you're constantly throwing that stuff out there, that's when things start to stick. We do it a lot with like blog articles, just thinking about like what we haven't written about in a while, what we would post about that would actually add value to the community. I remember earlier this year, our Facebook group was kind of dead. We didn't spend a lot of time on it. And over the weekend, I was like, I really need to focus on the Facebook group. So I took in some people and we created a plan, and we've been executing it all year. And sometimes you want to do a lot of different things, but you have to figure out like, what does it actually make sense for me to spend my time on this week, and also your team's time as well, because at some point you kind of hit a limit of what they can handle as well.
Super cool. And as you're explaining that, what comes to mind is that because I've done more of the delegation probably in the past year, and it seems like it hurts my brain a little bit because I have to think in a new way. And even the way that you're describing, you say, well, I have this big list of ideas, we do some back and forth, we narrow things down. It's a very like scientific, systematic kind of thing. And I hear more of the of what you're saying is like, this person will do that, right? This graphic designer will do that. And then things like deadlines. And it hurts my brain, but in a good way, because before hiring people, I would just, there was no system, and the results were hit and miss as well. It would be, I have an idea, there's other things on my plate, let me see what I have time for, let me chip away or make some progress at that. And that doesn't work at all when you're dealing with people, right? You have to give them tasks, you give them deadlines, you check on their work, you get different people waiting on other people. And have you experienced something similar, like just as far as getting into that employee delegation mindset?
Yeah. And what I've noticed is you really have to be able to give the really clear directions. I try to pretend like the person I'm talking to just knows nothing, and I just have to build it up from the ground up, because there's so many times that you have stuff in your mind that like makes sense to you, but you don't realize that you have like a whole background on these things. So things that you would assume don't get put on there. I'll give you a perfect example. There's actually one of the most frustrating examples. So we just added to our sign up that if you're like, you have to select your country, and then if you're US, you have to select your state, and it helps us organize like what states people are coming from. It's good for data and other stuff. Not that big of a deal. So we had our developers build it. Our developers are in India. They're awesome. They built a lot of great stuff for our software, but with developers, you can't assume anything. If you don't tell them to do it, they're not going to do it. So in the drop down, if you're US, you would have to scroll all the way down to you, and there was no ability to like type in United States. So every single client that signed up had to scroll down a whole list to get to you before typing in the United States. And so when we launched it, I was like pretty horrified. I'm like, we just made our sign up process way worse, even though we didn't really add anything. And then we had to go back and explain like, this is what we want. And in hindsight, it's probably my fault because I didn't think of it. I kind of just assumed that they would make it easy to use. So that kind of stuff happens. It can be frustrating over time, but you get better and better at it. And especially like what I was talking about the menu, like that was a crazy idea. I had to go through and explain the overall picture of what we wanted, and then explain, okay, here's your role in that to go and grab it. Here's what a good job posting to grab looks like. This is what doesn't, and really lay out the foundation before I get them going on the work.
And that right there is something that I've struggled with, but I think I'm slowly starting to get it. Is like, sometimes you feel like, well, how can I even explain this, right? You feel like this job I need done, it'll be easier for me to do it than it is for someone to implement. And it's like, I realize like sometimes I have to kind of create those right size instructions, like you're saying, like assume they don't know anything, and then maybe repeats things sometimes, but don't make it too wordy, and then show a few examples and say sometimes this and sometimes not that for other reasons. And sometimes they still might get it a little bit wrong. And like if there's like a data entry, maybe it's like, well, just do your best, but then we'll go and check and filter some things out. And so yeah, have you ever like just come across that where you say like, I don't know how to crack this nut, right? Like I want to implement one of these really crazy ideas, and then I just have trouble. I struggle getting it into these directions we're talking about.
Definitely. I mean, I'm working right now on a lead gen process that we've done a ton of revisions on, because there's just a lot of factors. Like we don't want to spam people. We don't want to contact people that are already clients, that are already partners. And we want to test out different emails. And it's a process. And it's one of those things that before we started, we committed that it was going to be a process. We didn't go into it saying, hey, if this is not done in a week, we don't want to spend more time on it. Now, if the free up menu had taken me 3 months to build, I would have been pretty frustrated, and that would have been a pretty poor job in project managing. So you kind of have to have that mindset up front of what are you actually trying to build here? Is it one of those quick wins like the menu that people hopefully will like, but if they don't, it didn't take much time? Or is it a bigger process, your marketing, your branding, your lead generation, whatever it is, that there's going to be failures along the way. You might get some quick ROI, but there's also going to be a lot of tweaking and implementing. And you also want to work with people that are bringing other stuff to the table. I'm working with two VAs that have a lot of lead generation experience who are bringing ideas that have potentially worked with other past clients, stuff that I never even would have thought of. And that doesn't necessarily mean those ideas will work or not work, but I kind of know being like, all right, we're investing this time, this money into it. If at the end of the day we have nothing, that's okay. But there's a high potential, because if we do get this running, then it can be a good revenue stream.
Yeah, and that's great. It's like you're realizing, well, what's the goal, and then what are my expectations going to be? That way, you kind of know what you're getting, or when what you get is maybe a disappointment or something unexpected, then instead of just like being negative about it, which is easy to do, instead you're comparing it against the expectation and saying, well, was this like the first iteration of this new page on my site or this new, app or platform, and then that's something I can grow? Or was it a crazy experiment? I was either expecting it to be like a dud or something crazy. And so, yeah, that's great. It's like you decide on what that expectation is ahead of time. And also what I'm hearing from you is like about different types of workers, right? And this is another thing that like, I'm still getting my head around it, but I wish someone had kind of told me the more of the hierarchy before, because there's like the low level workers, right? Like data entry people. There's the high level workers, like maybe specialists or copywriters or video creators. And then somewhere in the middle, there's maybe virtual assistants. And like, do you kind of see things in a similar way, or do you kind of have your own hierarchy or categories for the workers that you hire, the teams that you build?
Yeah, so I divide it into followers, doers, and experts. So followers, $5 to $10 an hour, non-US. They have years of experience, especially if you get them on the free up marketplace. But they're there to follow your systems, your process. They're there to help get you out of the day-to-day operations of your business. Then you got the doers. You got the graphic designers, the bookkeepers, the writers. You're not teaching a graphic designer how to be a graphic designer, but they're not consulting with you either. They do graphic design 10 hours a day. That's what they do. And then you got the experts, the high-level freelancers, consultants, agencies. They bring their own systems, their own process to the table. They can execute high-level game plans. They can audit. They can consult and all that. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is they hire a follower, but they don't really have systems and process, and then it doesn't work and they get upset. Or they hire a doer and they want that doer to bring the strategy to the table when really they're just there to do the projects. Or they hire an expert who has a lot of experience doing it their way, and they try to teach them a new way to do it, really experimenting on their own business, and then that doesn't work out. So these are real people. They don't always fit into perfect levels. But if you get into the mindset of, hey, do I need a follower to get out of the day-to-day? Do I need a doer to get projects on my plate? Or do I need an expert to take on a task that I'm not an expert at? That's when you have better hiring experiences.
Super cool. And that relates exactly to what we were saying earlier about that managing expectations. And instead of just saying, I'm going to hire this person and I expect the world, I expect this magic pill to just, instantly fix everything. And it's like, well, it will make things better. But then even sometimes it seems like it requires a little more like long-term thinking, right? Like when you hire someone to get that task off your plate, or the expert to work on that project or things like that, it's like, sometimes you have to have more faith than normal that it'll work out, right? Because you're like, well, I'm putting money into this. I'm putting writing instructions. I'm checking on their work. It's like it requires like a little bit more patience than maybe we're used to if we're trying to do everything ourselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the old thing. Whenever I talk to clients, they're like, oh, like I was so frustrated by like hiring a VA in the past that I'm just going to do it all myself. It's such a short-term thinking. Like that just doesn't work out. You're just going to do that same task forever. Well, those are just hours that you're just never going to commit to expanding your business. So in the short term, that might be true, but what you really need to do is focus on the things that you can control. And that's your interview process, how you set expectations, what your SOPs are, what information you're providing, how you're meeting with people, how you're remotivating people. If you focus on those rather than just the short-term wins and losses, that's how you have a better hiring track record over the long term.
Yeah, I agree completely. And then, like, because sometimes you hear about, like, I don't know, whenever there's like more like businessy speak or branding speak, I kind of tune out a little bit. But then you hear people about saying things like, have a vision for your business, or they talk about how Walt Disney would walk around the park and like see like where the garbage can was at, or see what it's like walking in the front gate. But then that sort of thing is kind of important, right? Like you don't want to be so caught up in the day to day that you're not looking at what experience that customer has when they buy your e-commerce product or go to your website, or even how, like you were mentioning about that, choosing the country in the drop down field. If you're just so busy coding or doing all that yourself, you're never going to realize. So it's like, I'm hearing from you that we need to free up those hours. That way we can focus on more of that, long-term important stuff that no one else is going to pay attention to, right? Like we have to, because we're running the business and we need to make sure that everything looks okay there. So unless you have anything else to jump in there, it seems like maybe you do, but I want to talk about the free up marketplace and kind of explain like why that's unique and important and stands out above the rest. But did you have something to jump in there before we switch gears?
Yeah, real quick, I'm a big fan of checking people's work too and giving feedback and making processes better. I mean, I have customer service reps who monitor my emails 24/7, and every morning I go through and I just scroll through the emails in the past 24 hours and I just look for mistakes. And I think some VAs, they don't like that at first because they think you're looking for errors, but I also explain to them like why I'm doing that and that everything's a learning lesson. And like there was an email this morning that like a client asked 2 questions and the freelancer only answered one of the questions, and she was a new VA. She's been doing awesome. She made a mistake, not the end of the world. But we taught her, hey, like make sure that if a client asks you 5 questions, you don't respond to 4 of them. You have to answer all of them. So just small stuff like that you can continue to be involved in your business without me having to type out every single email. In regards to free up, we get thousands of applicants every week, virtual assistants, freelancers, agencies from all over the world. We vet them for skill, attitude, and communication. Top 1% get in, and then we make them available to our clients quickly whenever they need them. It's free to sign up, no monthly fees, no minimums. It's in our best interest to get you people you actually like that help you grow your business. You just put in a request whenever you want someone. We'll fill that request within a business day. Normally send 1 person by default, but if you want to meet 3 or 5 or whatever it is, happy to do it. You can then interview them and see if they're the right fit for you and either hire them, negotiate rate, agree to fixed price, or pass, provide us feedback, and we'll get you more options. On the back end, we have 24/7 support in case you have even the smallest issue, and a no turnover guarantee. Freelancers on our platform rarely quit, but if they do, we cover replacement costs and get you a new person right away. So that's really what Free Up is all about: the pre-vetting, the speed, the customer service, and the protection.
Super awesome. And as you know, it's really easy to jump in on some of these other freelancing marketplaces, and sometimes it looks quicker or cheaper, but then you end up, I don't know, just at least with me, when I go to some of these bigger freelance marketplaces where people are not very vetted, they drop off, right? Like if I'm a new buyer, I get all the attention, but then once I'm a repeat buyer, once we figured each other out, I feel like I get moved to the back burner because they have all these other all these other new jobs they're just trying to land, because some of these other marketplaces are more cutthroat. So would you say that what makes you stand out is this vetting process here? Is that because you're mentioning that you have like the top 1% of people, so that way we're not getting some of these these randos, right, that we might find on some other marketplace where they're here today, gone tomorrow, or you have to play all these extra games. With this, it seems like if they're pre-vetted, they already know stuff, and it just seems like a smoother transition and transaction, and then we can trust these people better, right? Because who knows who we're getting on some other platform.
Yeah, I mean, we try to take everything that we liked about the other platforms and change everything that I didn't like. And we're a startup. We're always looking to improve and get better and make it a great platform, not just for clients, but for freelancers as well. And that's really what we're all about.
Fantastic. And so just to help people get their head wrapped around this idea of, building the team or expanding the team or replacing some of the tasks, what would you say are some of the top things that people hire your workers for? I mean, I know there's probably like a whole slew of things we could list, but if someone's like, okay, give me something exciting, give me something that I really need a change with my business, what would you say?
Yeah. So for the followers, executive assistants, virtual assistants, customer service, lead generation, sourcing, data entry, For the specialists, you got graphic designers, writers, you got social media specialists that specialize in Twitter or Facebook groups or Instagram or LinkedIn. You've got from the high level, you got the marketers, the branders, the UI, UX, the different copywriting sales consultants. So we have over 100 skill sets on the platform. If you go to freeup.com/skills, freeup.com/pricing, or freeup.com/menu, you can see a lot of different options of what can help your business.
Super cool. And like we've been saying here, you're thinking these things through a lot as far as what people need to know about you and your business. And that's been the big aha with me, is that it's easy to get stuck in the back end side of things, customer service side of things, in doing the work, but we need to talk ourselves up a little bit more, right? And brag about some of these things and think about, well, when someone is coming to us, they're going to have these doubts, hesitations, roadblocks, and different people think in different ways. So maybe some people want to know just about the pricing, just about the menu, just about the skills they could do. They're at kind of those different stages of awareness, different closeness as far as ready to buy or not. So I think that just from our conversation today, it is good that you can, get things off your plate and free up time and have that consistency, like have the graphics, like say social media graphics consistently coming out. It's good to know that the person's always working and have that consistent money in your business. But the aha for me is just being able to have that mental space to have those fun conversations with your team or your business partner and get the list of ideas and sort them out. Have the weekend projects or look at what that front door process is. And so, yeah, we all need to remove ourselves even a slight more bit out of our business, even if we already think we have things pretty much dialed in. And freeup.com is the marketplace to help you do that. You can go to freeup.com to see the front door there. You can go to freeup.com/skills to see the possibilities, the things that someone can do in your business. You can go to freeup.com/pricing to see what you would pay. freeup.com/menu to get some easy wins. So as we're about to wind down and wrap up here, Mr. Nathan, I always wish that I had pursued the delegating, outsourcing, employee thing years before I did. And it's always a struggle, right? To let go of the ego and to have that trust and to think more in systematic terms. So if someone out there in podcast land is listening and they say, I can relate, I struggle with taking myself out of that business a little bit, what would you say just for some words of reassurance or motivation or just that push in that right direction, which is to hire this team?
Yeah, don't give up. No one has a 100% hiring record. There's going to be failures along the way, but focus on what you can control, your systems, your processes, and overall, that's how you improve that hiring percentage.
Awesome. Control what you can control. I love it. So freeup.com is the place to go. And is that the hub for everything, or are there any other links we're throwing out here?
Yeah, check out my Facebook group, Outsourcing Masters. We post a lot of content there. You can connect with me on any social media channel, Real Nate Hirsch. And at the top of the FreeUp website is my calendar, my team's calendar. You can actually meet with one of my VAs, ask some questions about what it's like being a VA, whatever questions you have. And really appreciate you having me on.
Cool. I appreciate you being on. So that is the Outsourced Mastery Facebook group, Real Nate Hirsch on social media, and take Nathan up on his offer and talk to some of these VAs, or at least get some research happening here. Because if you say, oh, great, hiring or having VAs, that's a nice idea, set that aside and go to the next thing, you're only going to do yourself a disservice. I'm telling you guys in podcast time, this is the number one thing that I hear from people as far as things they wish they'd done sooner, the best decisions they'd made in business is having other people do the work. I know that there is a blow to the ego, but get over it. Wouldn't you rather have more freedom, more peace of mind, more money? I think so. So go to freeup.com. And thanks, Nate, for taking the time and having some fun. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Do you want a podcast like this one? Well, what's been holding you back? What if it was easy and you had someone to help you get it going? Check out doneforyoupodcasting.com, where we'll handle some or all of your podcast setup, production, marketing, and more. See you soon at doneforyoupodcasting.com.